Erling Haaland is not just a football superstar. He is a storm, wearing the calm face of a boy from Norway. A striker built like a machine, fast enough to escape defenders, strong enough to overpower them, and ruthless enough to turn one mistake into a goal. Today we know the records, the trophies, the Champions League nights, the Premier League goals. But before Manchester City, before Dortmund, before millions of people knew his name, there was a skinny, awkward kid from a small Norwegian town who played 16 senior matches without scoring a single goal. And behind him was a father who already knew how much football could give you, and how quickly it could take something back. This is the story of Erling Haaland. From the freezing pitches of Brine to becoming one of the most feared strikers on earth, Erling Braut Haaland was born on the 21st of July 2000 in Leeds, England. Football was already part of the family. His father, Alf Inge Haaland, played in the Premier League for Nottingham Forest, Leeds United, and Manchester City. His mother, Gry Marita Braut, was an athlete too, competing in the heptathlon. Training, competition, recovery, discipline. These weren't unusual ideas inside the Haaland household. They were normal life. But Erling's father also carried another lesson, a darker one. Football can give you almost everything, and still remind you how fragile a career can be. One moment became impossible to separate from Alf Inge's story. April 2001, Manchester Derby, Roy Keane. Brutal challenge that became one of the Premier League's most infamous images. But the lesson for Erling went beyond one tackle. Professional football demands a price from the body. Every sprint, every collision, every season. And no matter how powerful a footballer looks, the body has limits. Erling would remember that lesson years later. When Erling was still young, the family returned to Norway, to Brine, far away from the glamour of Europe's biggest stadiums. No superstar lifestyle, no global sponsors, no millions of followers. Just cold Norwegian evenings, artificial pitches, and football. Lots of football, and people quickly noticed something. Erling could score. By 15, playing for Brine's second team, he scored 18 goals in only 14 matches. But physically, he didn't look anything like today's Haaland. He was skinny, tall, awkward, still learning how to control a body that seemed to be growing faster than he could understand it. Then came senior football, and suddenly the goals disappeared. At only 15, Haaland was playing against grown men, experienced defenders, players stronger than him, players who didn't care about his potential. They pushed him, leaned into him, closed his space, and across 16 senior appearances for Brine, Haaland scored 0 goals, 16 games, nothing. Today we watch Haaland and think scoring is automatic. Back then, the net simply wouldn't move. For a young striker, that silence can be brutal. Every missed chance creates another question. Am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Do I belong here? But Haaland kept returning, and those scoreless matches became some of the most important games of his career. He learned how to fight for space, how to absorb contact, how to time his movement, how to wait, and most importantly, how to fail without disappearing. Before Haaland learned how to dominate defenders, he learned how to survive them. In 2017, another opportunity arrived, Molde, and his coach knew something about scoring important goals. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the Manchester United legend, saw potential in the teenager, and slowly the goals started arriving. Then came a match against Brann. Haaland scored 4. Suddenly Norway was paying attention, because something else was happening. The skinny teenager was changing. He was getting taller, stronger, faster. That awkward body was becoming a weapon. European clubs started watching, and in January 2019, Red Bull's Salzburg made their move. But once again, Haaland had to wait. Minutes were limited. Other strikers were ahead of him, and those old questions could have returned. Was he ready? Had he moved too soon? Then came the 2019 Under-20 World Cup, Norway against Honduras, and Haaland introduced himself to the world. One goal, then another, and he didn't stop. By the final whistle, Erling Haaland had scored 9 goals in one match. Suddenly, everyone knew the name. Back at Salzburg, everything changed. Haaland became obsessed with improvement. He studied great strikers, Cristiano Ronaldo, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, their movement, positioning, finishing, but he also studied what happened away from the pitch: food, sleep, recovery, training, because talent can get you noticed. Habits determine how long people keep watching. Then came the 17th of September 2019, Champions League. Salzburg against Genk, Haaland's debut. Most teenagers would have been nervous. Haaland scored a hat-trick. Then he scored against Liverpool, then Napoli, and again. Europe wasn't watching a promising teenager anymore. It was watching something frightening emerge. A striker with the body of a target man, the acceleration of a winger, and an almost unnatural hunger for goals. After only a year in Austria, Haaland needed a bigger stage. January 2020, Borussia Dortmund, his Bundesliga debut against Augsburg. Haaland started on the bench. When he entered the game, Dortmund were losing 3-1. Then Haaland happened. 1, 2, 3. A hat-trick on his Bundesliga debut. And somehow, it kept happening. Goals, records, more goals. But Dortmund also introduced the world to another version of Erling Haaland, the interview version. And apparently, scoring goals was much easier for him than giving long answers. A reporter would ask a detailed question. Haaland would stare back, short answer, another question, another short answer, sometimes 3 words, sometimes 2. Sometimes the interviewer looked like he was trying to extract information from a secret agent. Facing Haaland as a defender, uncomfortable. Interviewing him, apparently not much easier. His strategy seemed simple. Score. Say 3 words, go home, score again. And people loved it, because underneath the terrifying striker, there was a slightly awkward young man who didn't always seem interested in behaving like a polished superstar. On the pitch, however, nothing was awkward. Power, speed, movement. Finishing. He won the Golden Boy Award, helped Dortmund win the DFB Pokal, and became one of Europe's most wanted players. Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Paris Saint-Germain. Everybody was watching, but one club had something the others didn't. Family connection. Manchester City, summer 2022. Haaland arrived in Manchester, and immediately came the question, can he do it in England? Could this giant Norwegian fit inside Pep Guardiola's complex tactical system? Haaland answered in the language he knew best: goals. 9 in his first 5 Premier League matches, then hat-tricks, then records, then more records. Defenders knew what was coming, they still couldn't stop it. Then came RB Leipzig in the Champions League. 1 goal, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals in 1 match. Then, May 2023, Premier League goal number 35, a new record in the 38-game Premier League era. By the end of the season, 36 league goals. But individual records weren't enough. Manchester City won the Premier League, then the FA Cup, then the Champions League, the treble. In his first season in England, Haaland had helped Manchester City make history. The skinny kid from Brighton was standing at the top of European football. And then there is the other Haaland, because for someone who looks like he was designed in a laboratory to destroy defenders, he can be surprisingly funny. Take Texas. Norway were in the United States, and Haaland went shopping for cowboy hats. Picture it, 6'4", long blonde hair, one of the most feared strikers on earth, trying on cowboy hats. For a moment, the football Terminator disappeared. No Champions League, no Premier League, just a Norwegian tourist who looked like he'd accidentally walked into a Western movie. That's Haaland. On the pitch, Viking. In front of goal, machine. During interviews, 3 words. In Texas, cowboy. Football is serious. Erling Haaland, not always. But behind the jokes is an athlete who takes his body extremely seriously. Because Haaland remembers what football taught his father. Nothing lasts forever. Every sprint has a cost. Every leap, every collision, every match. So recovery became part of the job. Sleep, nutrition, treatment, rest, preparation. Haaland has spoken about protecting his sleep and recovery. Blue light blocking glasses, carefully managed routines, small details designed around one question: how can I be ready tomorrow? Because Saturday's goal doesn't always begin on Saturday. Sometimes it begins the night before. And when physical problems forced Haaland away from football during the 2023-24 season, even the machine had to stop. No goals, no stadium, no explosive runs, just rehabilitation, patience, waiting. The same lesson he learned years earlier. You cannot always force progress. Sometimes you have to respect it. But there was still one stage missing: the World Cup. Norway had not played at a men's World Cup since 1998, before Haaland was even born. For years, one of football's greatest strikers had watched the game's greatest tournament from home. He could dominate Germany, destroy Premier League defenses, break Champions League records. But the World Cup remained somewhere else. For Norway, Haaland wasn't simply a striker, he was hope. The boy from Brine had become the face of an entire football nation. And in 2026, that journey finally brought Norway and Haaland onto football's biggest stage. Now, he wasn't chasing Manchester City's next trophy. He wasn't chasing another Premier League record. He was wearing Norway's red shirt. Millions of people, one country, one number 9. And even under that pressure, Haaland was still Haaland, because between the matches came moments that showed another side of him. At one point, he joins Norwegian supporters in their rowing celebration. Yes, rowing, one of football's most dangerous strikers, moving with the supporters as if the Norwegian end had suddenly transformed into a giant Viking boat. For a moment, the superstar disappeared. It was simply Erling, celebrating with his people. Norway, Vikings. Of course there had to be rowing. Apparently, that wasn't enough. Then came the drum. Haaland got his hands on it. Bang, 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 the supporters responded. Haaland smiled, and for a few seconds, all the pressure disappeared. No records, no transfer values, no debate about the world's best striker, just a Norwegian, a drum, and thousands of supporters living the same dream. Think about this man's career. On the pitch, machine. Interview, 3 words. Texas, cowboy. World Cup, Viking rower. And apparently, drummer. But eventually, the smile disappeared, because there was still football to play. And when Haaland crossed the white line, the entertainer became the striker again. The World Cup had been the missing stage, and now, the moment every striker dreams about had arrived. Haaland moves, the defender hesitates, the ball arrives. One moment, one opportunity. The stadium erupts. Norwegian supporters lose their minds. The same supporters who had been rowing, singing, and beating the drum were now watching their number 9 deliver on football's greatest stage. And Haaland runs toward them. Not celebrating for Manchester City, not Dortmund, not Salzburg. Norway, his country, his people, his home. And suddenly, 2 moments separated by years appear side by side. Brine, 16 senior appearances, 0 goals. Then, the World Cup. The biggest stage in football. The boy who once couldn't score against senior defenders in Norway was now carrying his country beneath the brightest lights in the sport. Maybe that's why the rowing mattered. The drum mattered. The laughter mattered. They weren't just funny clips. They showed what Norway meant to him. For most of Haaland's career, the world has demanded one thing: score, win, break a record, score again. But surrounded by Norwegian supporters, for a few moments, he wasn't only the superstar they had come to watch. He was one of them, because greatness creates a strange problem. Eventually, people stop being surprised. Haaland scores once, normal, twice, good. Hat-trick? That's Haaland. No goal? What's wrong with him? That's the punishment of becoming extraordinary. Eventually, extraordinary becomes expected. Records become normal. Goals become obligations. Miracles become statistics. And behind all of it, there is still a human being. That's why the interviews matter. The jokes matter. The cowboy hat matters. The rowing matters. The drum matters. They remind us that beneath the football machine, Erling Haaland is still Erling. Today, Haaland looks inevitable. 6'4", explosive, powerful, clinical, like someone created the perfect striker in a video game and accidentally placed him into real football. But his journey was never inevitable. There were doubts, there were injuries, there were months spent waiting. And there was a time when the goals simply wouldn't come. Before the packed stadiums came empty training grounds. Before the records came repetition. Before the trophies came patience. Before the world believed in Erling Haaland, he had to keep believing in himself. His father's career taught him that football doesn't last forever. Brian taught him patience. Molde gave him belief. Salzburg gave him a stage. Dortmund made him a superstar. Manchester City turned him into history. And Norway gave him something none of those clubs ever could: the chance to carry home with him onto football's greatest stage. One day, the records will be broken. Another striker will arrive. Another superstar will dominate the headlines. That's football. But Haaland's journey leaves behind something numbers cannot explain. Greatness isn't created only beneath stadium lights. It's built on freezing training pitches, in empty gyms, in rehabilitation rooms, in disappointing matches, in the nights when nobody knows your name. It's built when you fail and return tomorrow, when your body tells you to slow down and you are disciplined enough to listen, when the entire world finally starts watching but you keep working like nobody is. From 16 senior games without a goal, to Molde, Salzburg, Dortmund, Manchester City, Premier League records, Champions League glory, and the World Cup, Erling Haaland has become one of football's most frightening strikers. But perhaps the most impressive thing about him isn't his strength, it isn't his speed, and it isn't even his goals. It's that somewhere beneath the superstar, it is the person who manages to lead a normal private life despite worldwide fame.